The old woman shuffled down the busy city street with a tattered coat wrapped tightly around her frail body. Her shoes, worn thin and mismatched, slapped softly against the wet pavement. People brushed past her without a glance, clutching their coffees, checking their phones, pretending she didn't exist. To them, she was just another homeless woman, another invisible soul lost in the noise of the city. But what no one knew was that today, she had come to test something. Her name was Clara Bennett, and she had once owned half the buildings these same people walked into every day. She had been powerful once, respected, feared even. But wealth had a way of rotting people from the inside out, and she had seen it destroy everyone around her. Her family had turned on each other. Her so-called friends had sold lies dressed as loyalty, and the world had shown her its teeth. Years ago, after her husband died, and her children abandoned her for inheritance money, Clara disappeared. Everyone thought she was gone. Some whispered she had gone insane, others that she died poor and forgotten, but none of that was true. Clara hadn't disappeared. She had simply walked away. Now, after 10 long years, she was back, dressed in the rags of the forgotten, with her hair grey and wild, her posture bent by time and sorrow. She had taken on a disguise that no one could see through, and today, she wanted to see one thing, whether kindness still existed in a world that had become obsessed with appearances and status. When she entered the large downtown bank, all eyes turned toward her. The place smelled of polished marble and expensive perfume, filled with suits, watches, and whispers. Clara limped up to the reception desk, clutching a small torn envelope. Her voice, soft but firm, carried across the silence. "Excuse me, dear," she said. "I'd like to open an account." The young receptionist, a woman in her 20s with perfect nails and a fake smile, blinked twice as if she couldn't believe what she'd just heard. "Ma'am," she said carefully, her tone already laced with condescension, "we're a private client bank. We don't usually open accounts under a certain balance threshold." Clara tilted her head. "And what threshold would that be, sweetheart?" The receptionist forced a polite laugh. For new clients, the minimum is $50,000. Clara smiled faintly. "I see, then perhaps you can direct me to the manager." The receptionist's smile faltered. She hesitated, clearly torn between sending the old woman away and humoring her. Around them, several customers began to stare and whisper. A man in a grey suit chuckled under his breath. "These people will try anything these days," he said to no one in particular. "Must have found $1 on the street and thought she'd invest it." Another woman snickered, shaking her head. "Can't security handle this?" Clara didn't react. Her eyes and a deep, sharp brown watched everything quietly. She had learned long ago that people revealed themselves most when they believed no one important was watching. "Ma'am," the receptionist said again, her voice firm now. "Maybe you'd be more comfortable at a community credit union." "Maybe," Clara murmured. "But I'd still like to speak to your manager." The young woman sighed and reluctantly pressed a button on her desk phone. "Mr. Harlan," she said, "there's a client here requesting you." When the manager appeared, the laughter in the lobby only grew louder. Mr. Harlan was a tall, well-groomed man in his 40s with a perfect tie and a sharper smirk. His eyes landed on Clara, and his expression shifted instantly into polite disgust. "What seems to be the problem?" he asked. Clara smiled kindly. "No problem at all, sir." "I just wanted to open an account," he chuckled, glancing at the receptionist. "Of course you do," he said, then looked back at Clara. "Do you have identification? Proof of address? Source of income?" "Everything you'll need is in this envelope," she said, handing it over. He took it with a smirk but didn't even look inside. "Listen, ma'am, we don't mean to offend, but this institution caters to a particular clientele. You may find another bank more suitable for your situation." Around them, the laughter grew crueler. Someone took out a phone and began recording. "This is too good," a woman whispered. A homeless woman trying to open a Billionaire account. But Clara didn't flinch. She simply nodded, her eyes calm and wise. "I understand," she said softly. "It's just, you might want to check the envelope before you turn me away." Mr. Harlan sighed, clearly eager to end the scene. He tore open the envelope and pulled out the contents. His smirk froze. Inside was a check for $250 million. The silence that followed was so deep it felt like the air had been sucked out of the room. The receptionist's jaw dropped. The man in the grey suit stopped laughing. Every whisper died instantly. Clara watched him quietly. "Now," she said in the same calm tone, "shall we continue?" The manager's face drained of color. He blinked at the check as if it couldn't be real. Where did you get this?" he stammered. "I wrote it," Clara said. "It's from one of my accounts. I own several. Under a different name, of course." He swallowed hard, the arrogance melting from his face. "Mean Miss Bennet?" he whispered, as if afraid of his own words. The room gasped. The name spread like wildfire. Clara Bennet, the missing tycoon, the philanthropist who vanished a decade ago. Clara's smile didn't waver. "So now that you know who I am, would you still have laughed?" No one spoke. The receptionist's hands shook. The man with the phone quietly put it down. Mr. Harlan tried to recover, his voice trembling. "Mrs. Bennet, please forgive us," she lifted a hand. "No, I won't. You see, I came here not as the woman you all once bowed to, but as the woman the world chooses to ignore. You failed the simplest test there is, compassion. You all did." Her voice grew stronger, echoing off the marble walls. "You see poverty and you laugh. You see wealth and you kneel. But what makes you truly poor is that you don't know how to see people at all." Mr. Harlan looked like he wanted to disappear. The entire lobby was silent. Clara took back her check and tucked it into her coat. "I'll take my business elsewhere," she said simply. She turned and began to walk toward the exit, her slow steps echoing through the hall. No one dared stop her this time. People who had mocked her moments ago now stared as if she were a ghost. But just as she reached the door, she paused and looked back. "Though and Mr. Harlan," she said softly, "one more thing, by morning, this bank will belong to me." Then she smiled faintly and walked out into the rain. No one dared breathe until she was gone. Out on the street, Clara lifted her face toward the grey sky, feeling the drizzle touch her skin. She had seen enough to confirm what she already knew. People only valued what glittered. But now she had plans, and those plans were about to change everything. If you're watching this story right now, tell me in the comments, where are you watching from? And don't forget, like, subscribe, and share if you believe that kindness is worth more than money. The rain poured harder as Clara Bennet walked down the street, her steps slow but full of purpose. Every drop that struck her face seemed to wash away a piece of the pain she had carried for years. She had spent a lifetime watching people bow to her when she was rich and spit at her when she wasn't. Now she knew the truth. The only thing more powerful than money was the way people treated others when they thought no one important was watching. That night, in a small, dim apartment above a bakery, Clara sat at a wooden table. She carefully removed her grey wig, straightened her back, and wiped the dark smudge from her face. Beneath the disguise, the old homeless woman seemed to vanish. In her place sat a woman whose eyes were sharp, alert, and burning with quiet fury. She reached for her phone and dialed a private number. A man's voice answered almost immediately. "Madam Bennet," he said respectfully, "did they fail the test?" "They did," she replied softly. "Just like the others. Record every employee in that branch. We'll begin the process tomorrow." "Yes, ma'am." She hung up and leaned back in her chair. On the wall behind her were files stacked high, names of banks, charities, and companies that had once called her lost. What they didn't know was that she had been watching them all, one by one, testing their humanity through people they thought were beneath them. And this time, she had found the one that broke her heart the most. The next morning, when the bank staff arrived, they were met with a shock. Standing in the lobby was the regional director of the corporation, surrounded by executives and security guards. Mr. Harlan, the manager, rushed in, pale and nervous. "Sir," he began, "what's going on?" The director turned, holding a paper. "Effective immediately," he said coldly. "This branch is under new ownership." Mr. Harlan blinked. "New ownership?" The director's eyes flicked to the door. "Yes, her." And then, as if summoned by fate, Clara Bennet entered the bank, this time not in rags but in a sleek black coat. Her silver hair was neatly pinned, her diamond brooch glinted under the lights, and the air itself seemed to hush when she walked in. Everyone stared, recognizing the woman they had humiliated the day before. "Good morning," Clara said evenly. "I see the staff has gathered." Mr. Harlan tried to smile, but it came out as a twitch. "Mrs. Bennet—" You may call me Miss Bennet," she interrupted. "And I'll save you the trouble. You're fired." The color drained from his face. "Please, You turned away a human being yesterday because she didn't look wealthy, she said. You judged her, mocked her, and allowed others to do the same. I don't want people like that managing my money or anyone else's. The receptionist began to cry softly, whispering apologies. Clara looked at her and said gently, I don't hate you, child. I pity you, because you've forgotten that behind every stranger is a story you know nothing about. She turned to the rest of the staff. I'm reopening this branch as the Bennett Foundation Bank. It will not serve the powerful. It will serve the powerless. The first $1 million in deposits will go toward community housing projects, education grants, and small business loans for people you all would have turned away yesterday. The silence that followed was so deep it hurt. Cameras clicked as journalists rushed to cover what had already become the biggest story of the week. Missing billionaire returns, buys bank that mocked her. The headline spread within hours, but not everyone was happy. Mr. Harlan stormed out, his face red with shame and rage. Clara watched him go, her expression unreadable. She didn't hate him, not really. She had once been like him, arrogant, blind, too proud to see the beauty in simple things. But life had humbled her, and now she was doing what she wished someone had done for her long ago, holding a mirror up to the world. Over the next few weeks, the new Bennett Foundation Bank became a phenomenon. Lines of people formed outside every morning, single mothers, small business owners, the elderly, and even former homeless individuals. They were greeted with respect, given fair opportunities, and treated like human beings, not numbers. Every day Clara would visit, dressed simply, not as a billionaire, but as someone ordinary. She sat with the customers, listened to their stories, and sometimes even shared coffee with them in the lobby. Word spread that the old lady who owned the bank was unlike any other billionaire, that she genuinely cared. But there was one story that stayed with her most. One afternoon, a young man came to the bank with a little girl holding his hand. They were thin, tired, and wearing second-hand clothes. The man hesitated at the entrance, as if afraid he'd be thrown out. Clara, noticing them, approached. "Good afternoon," she said kindly. "Can I help you?" The man nodded nervously. I wanted to open an account. Just $50. I don't have more. I just want to start somewhere. Clara smiled, the same warm smile she had once given the arrogant manager. $50 is a beautiful start, she said. And I promise, you'll never be turned away here. As she helped them sign the papers, the little girl looked up at Clara and asked, "Are you the boss lady?" Clara chuckled. "Something like that." The girl smiled shyly. "You're nice. You don't look rich." Clara paused for a moment, then bent down to meet her eyes. "Maybe that's because real wealth isn't something you can see." The girl nodded thoughtfully. "My daddy says rich people don't care about poor people." Clara's eyes softened. "Then your daddy hasn't met all of them yet." When they left, the man turned back, tears glistening in his eyes. "Thank you, ma'am," he whispered. "No one's ever treated us like that before." Clara watched them go, her heart swelling with something deeper than pride, peace. For the first time in years, she felt she had finally done something that mattered. That evening, as the sun dipped behind the skyline, Clara sat in her office, looking out the window at the city lights. Her reflection stared back, older, wiser, and finally at peace. On her desk sat a small framed photo of her husband, smiling warmly beside her younger self. "I think you'd be proud of me, Henry," she murmured. "I finally learned what money's really worth." A soft knock on the door interrupted her thoughts. It was the same receptionist from that fateful day, now dressed simply, her eyes humble. "Miss Bennett," she said softly, "I wanted to thank you for not firing me." Clara smiled faintly. "People deserve second chances." "Remember that," the young woman nodded, her voice trembling. "I'll never judge someone like that again." "I swear." "Good," Clara said. "Then my job here is done." When the woman left, Clara turned back to the window. The city below was still loud, still greedy, still shining with false gold, but somewhere within it a small spark of kindness had been reignited. And maybe, just maybe, that was enough to change everything.